praises, all praises. So next, if you can, read First John chapter 2, verse 18 through 19.
So this is the book of First John, chapter 18 through 19. It says, "Children, Christ is coming. So now many antichrists are. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would have continued with us. But when they went out, that it might come plain that they all are not of us."
God, so we see in verse 18, it clarifies that there are many antichrists by this particular time, like I mentioned before. And in verse 19, it says that they went out from us, but they were not of us, and they departed from them to make it plain that they are not of us, right? And this is in reference to a number of disciples in the Johannine community that again they as we would understand it, they quote unquote bugged out, and they started to believe and teach false doctrine that concerned um Yahushua and him coming in the flesh, right? Or lack thereof. Like they started to teach that um Yahushua, he couldn't have came in the flesh and things like that. And we're gonna get into it, right? God, God sis said they're not like us. That's on point. And I was thinking about that too. That's funny. But real quick, we're gonna bring this out in the Net Bible, and then this a little translator note that I want to get into as well, right? If you can, I'm gonna share my screen. Read for me verse 18 all the way to 19. I gotta highlight it.
Okay, so it says, "Children, it is the last hour, just as you heard the Antichrist is coming. So now many Antichrists has appeared. We know from that it is the last hour. But they went out from us, but they did not really belong to us, because if they had belonged to us, they would have remained with us. But they went out from us to demonstrate that all of them do not belong to us."
So the Net Bible, it pretty much says the same thing. But I wanted to I wanted y'all to check out this translator note. And real quick, I'll read it. It's all the way at the bottom. Let me try to blow my screen up. Hopefully it's you're able to see it. But it says all of them do not belong to us. Boy. Yeah, let me screen left. There it says all of them do not belong to us. The opponents chose to depart rather than remain in fellowship with the community to which the author writes and with which he associates himself. This demonstrates conclusively to the author that they never really belonged to that community at all, in spite of what they were claiming. In 1 John 2:19, First John 2:19 indicates that the departure was apparently the opponent's own decision rather than being thrown out or excommunicated. But for John, if they had been genuine believers, they would have remained in fellowship. Now they have gone out into the world where they belong. And that's and they cite First John 4 and 5. But again, I just wanted to read that because that actually speaks to the point I was making earlier about these particular people being a part of the community that the writer of First John is writing to, and this would have been the Johannine community, the disciples of John, right? And they're, John and his disciples, they were responsible for the Gospel of John, as well as the prologue and the ending, and the epistles of John, right? But again, that's a textual criticism conversation for another day. But let's continue on. Let's jump back to First John 2, and I read for me verses 20 through 23.
Okay, so this is the book of John, chapter 2, verses 20, right? And it says, but you have been anointed by the Holy One, and you all have knowledge. I write unto you not because you do not know the truth, but because you know it, and because no lie is of the truth. Who is the liar, but who denies that Yahweh Shai is Hamashiach? This is the Antichrist. He who also he who denies the Father and the Son. No one who denies the Son has the Father. Whoever confesses the Son has the Father also.
Con, con all praises. So, as we see in these particular verses, the writer says, to the audience, that he's speaking to, he says that they have been anointed by the Holy One and they have knowledge, so he's just reaffirming, what they already know, right? In some translations, it says they have unction from the Holy One, etc. Right? But he goes on to say a little bit later, um, you know, who a liar is, or he describes who a liar is, and he says it's he who denies that Yahweh Shai is Mashiach, and then he says he is the Antichrist. So this one is the Antichrist, right? And then he says the one who denies the Father and Son, right? So this person that's being described as an Antichrist is somebody that denies that Yahweh Shai is the anointed, and by this they would deny the Father and the Son. Now, again, let's make some sense of this, because again, these people, they were, they would have already been believers according to what the writer of First John already said, right? Because it said they went out, from them. So they, again, they were a part of this particular community, and they, apparently claimed to believe, but they went out and into apostasy, and if you don't know what apostasy is, that's just referring to when you abandon your faith, so to speak, right? But again, these people, they used to be, apparently they used to believe just like the followers of John and the people within this community, but they started taking on heretical doctrines, and it caused them to be deceived, into believing falsehoods, about the identity of Yahweh Shai, and that he didn't, he didn't come in flesh and stuff like that. And we're gonna go a little bit further into proving that, right? But but yeah, like again, just to continue on with this particular theme, and dealing with the same author as well, same one that wrote First John 2. Let's go back to First John chapter 4, right? And if you can read for me First John chapter 1, I'm sorry, chapter 4, verse 1 through 2.
Okay, so this is the book of John, chapter First John chapter 4, verses 1. It says, Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirit to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out in the world. It says, but this you know the Spirit of God, right? Every spirit that confesses that Yahushua HaMashiach has come in the flesh is from God, right? And it says,
Con,
and every spirit that
con,
does not
that's good.
confess.
That's good right there. That's good right there. Because we're
Okay,
gonna
right,
get
go
to
ahead.
verse 3. Con.
All right, okay.
But but right there, just to start off, we see that the writer, again, it's the same author of First John 2. He says not to believe every spirit, but to test the spirits to see if they are from the Most High, because many false teachers or false prophets have gone out. And again, this is in reference to those particular people that departed from this particular community, or quote unquote were, a part of that particular community, right? And then in verse 2, it says the author, or we see that the author, he gives, a particular benchmark for how to determine if one has a spirit of the Most High. And that particular benchmark is that one confesses Yahweh Shai, the anointed as come into the flesh. And when you go into that particular word for confess, it's dealing in reference to, conceding or agreeing with, right? So this is not just, somebody just saying something, because an argument that somebody could say is, well, yeah, well, he anybody can just say they believe that Jesus came in the flesh, and they could be lying to you, but the text is actually conveying the point of somebody that actually agrees and concedes to this fact, right? And so if anybody has ever heard of you know like um like in certain religions they have what you would call like confessions of faith. These are things that they actually concede to, and they yield to or believe, right? So it's not just, yeah, we believe, you have to have faith in Christ, but they don't really believe it. No, this is something that they actually believe. So when the writer says this, someone that has the spirit from the Most High, they're gonna concede to the fact that Yahweh Shai has came in the flesh, right? That's gonna be something that's not um like a debate. You know what I'm saying? So let's continue on. If you cannot, just read verse 3.
So this is book of John, First John chapter 4 verses 3, and it says, "And every spirit that does not confess Yahweh Shai is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard was coming, and now is in the world already."
Con. So right there it said that every spirit that doesn't confess Yahweh Shai, they are not from the Most High. And he goes on to say that the Antichrist is in the world already. So, this is an opponent that's already, they've already appeared. This isn't something that, they're waiting on and saying, hey, you're going to have to wait in the future and anything like that. But this is something that, or this is a person or a group of people, etc., that have already been made manifest, and they know who these specific groups of people are. Like they've already marked them. Like I believe in the book of Romans, it says to mark them which teach heresies and cause divisions, roughly paraphrased. And I think it's in the book of Romans, the 16th chapter. So again, let's continue on with the same author, Second John, um, Second John chapter 1. It's only one chapter anyway. Second John chapter 1 verse 7, and I just read for me verse 7 by itself.
So this is the book of Second John, right? Chapter 1, verse 7. It says, "For many deceivers has gone out into the world, those who do not confess the coming of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach in the flesh. Such a one is the deceiver and the Antichrist."
Con, con. So the writer here, he says many deceivers have gone into the world, right? And it describes these particular deceivers as those who don't confess the coming of Yahweh Shai in the flesh, and it calls these people antichrist, right? So again, there's no conversation of like because like I've heard a lot of things. Like people will say, yeah, if you believe that he had a biological father, then you're an antichrist. You don't believe in the true gospel. You don't believe the testimony was written. If you believe, and they'll just name off all of these dogmatic positions that you know Christians hold to, and they'll say if you don't believe these things, then you're an antichrist. But the Bible actually said that an antichrist, and they were actually dealing with people that were that they would have called antichrist, but the Bible actually specified these particular people, and what these particular people believed was that the Mashiach didn't actually come into the flesh. Like that's what the argument was. Like it wasn't about is he the most high God. It wasn't about him being born of a, like it wasn't about any of those things. When you read in every single account that speaks about Antichrist. And it's only in the Bible, like I said, 5 times. You never see it about all of these conversations that people are having. But, again, people, they make, they'll make a doctrine out of anything, you know. But well, before I move on, any of y'all brothers got any points?
Yeah, they'll make
La
they'll make doctrines like you mentioned, out of thin air. Like for example, that Lucifer doctrine. I remember we kind of harped on that like a while back. Like even
Con,
Lucifer became a whole like doctrine, right? Just off that alone.
con, that's on point. Yeah, that's a good example. All praises.
When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. That's don't nobody wanna face.